Hello everyone, our paper is entitled Designing the Olkola Cultural Knowledge Centre, a traditional owner-led integrated research and education process. I'm Hannah Robertson and I'm presenting on behalf of our co-authors today. I'd like to start by acknowledging the country on which I'm speaking to you today, the lands of the Wurundjeri people, and I'd like to acknowledge the Olkola people who are intrinsically a part of this project and are leading this project. The need for this project and the subsequent teaching opportunity that came from it is for a cultural knowledge centre to be located on the lands of the Olkola people in central Cape York, and you can see that on the left there. And for this to be a place that could combine multiple activities for the Olkola people in one building. And so you can see an image of Uncle Mike Ross here, who's a senior Olkola elder, who articulates the need for this project when he says, "We want to use the centre for all projects, recording knowledge and collecting information of the country and our culture. We want to use all our knowledge we can get of our landscape to manage country, putting together scientific information and cultural knowledge. We can do a lot on a centre based on country because you're not talking about your country, you're on country." The context of this particular collaboration between the engineering students and architecture students came out of a series of incremental steps towards designing and building this project. You can see that initially we started by meeting on country, then there was a semester where the master plan was developed by some architecture students, followed by another semester to do the detailed design. And at the end of that stage, it was quite evident that we needed to incorporate structural engineering and service design and town planning considerations to get it to the next stage where the projects would be ready for construction. And so in meeting Associate Professor Pippa Connolly and myself, we came together and created a subject that would do that. Before I go into how we structured the subject, just a brief overview of some of the literature that we drew upon to inform the pedagogy of this subject. Two kind of key areas. One, looking at interdisciplinarity in architectural science and the need for that to be studio-based, integrated and applied, and the need for every member of a team to contribute. And then also looking at how to engage with traditional owners in teaching. And so some really key documents on that, particularly with the new AATSIS Code of Ethics for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander research, which was just published in October. AATSIS is the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies. Another two key documents there, the International Indigenous Design Charter and the Indigenous Knowledge in Built Environment Guide for Tertiary Educators. All of these have some similar features around supporting self-determination, deep listening, shared knowledge, shared benefits, and empowerment for the group that you're working with. And so this project that responds to the Olkola needs is really aligned with that approach. How our project was organised in terms of the subject, basically there was over 300 engineering students who were organised into teams of 5, each with a transport, mechanical, structural, environmental and water engineer, and then because there were so many of them, there were 60 teams of them and 15 architecture students. The 15 architecture students who carried forward the designs from the semester before pitched their design concepts and the way they wanted to carry them forward to the engineering students, and then those engineering teams then balloted for those teams, and then we tried to make it as fair as possible for there to be some alignment so that those teams could have an invested interest in the design that they ended up with. Then they worked together on developing a concept design, and then Olkola provided feedback on the scheme that they decided they wanted to go with, and then there was detailed design provided, and then Olkola came down, traditional owners came down and visited, provided feedback and celebrated through the observing the presentations of the engineering teams and an exhibition from the architectural students from their work from that semester, as well as from the previous semesters that had culminated in that stage. Jumping to some of the feedback that came out of the experience of being a part of this project, of being engaged with the architectural student mentors and of being engaged with the Olkola traditional owners, the engineering student feedback had some common themes. Generally, the students valued the architectural student mentor collaboration despite having different approaches to how they did the work. Generally, students found the student-centered learning new but useful for applying theoretical knowledge. And generally, they valued the project and the Olkola collaboration. The image on the left is of one of the former students and now a graduate, PROIECT, who is a mechanical engineer, and she's now an ongoing volunteer with the on the project, while also working as a graduate engineer at Arup. And she states, "Today we got the opportunity to present to Olkola, which I think was really important and nice to have their feedback and for them to share what we've done, because at the end of the day, they've been kept in our minds throughout this whole process, and that is who this work is for." So to have the opportunity to present to them was definitely a highlight. So highlighting there the importance of that connection to Olkola through those presentations at the end of the semester. For the architectural student mentors, the feedback themes were slightly different from the engineering students, and we observed that generally the student feedback themes were that they had varied experiences of working with the engineering team depending on the collaborative approach. There was frustration at the engineering team, lack of drawing, so that different way of communicating was coming out between these two different disciplines. The importance of negotiation in order to get to a resolved outcome, the value of engineering and design resolution, and in particular structural engineering was valued. The students as the mentors expressed a comfort with that self-directed learning and that mentorship and guidance of the engineering teams, and I think that's possibly reflective of the architectural education, which is more self-directed perhaps than engineering. And there was also a real resonance with the project purpose, and I think that was possibly due more to the fact that this was an elective subject, whereas the engineering students were undertaking this as a capstone unit that all engineering students had to undertake before graduating from their course. And this student on the left is James Taylor, who is now a graduate as well, but he undertook the subject over the 3 semesters and is now actually employed by Olkola 2 days a week, and is leading aspects of the administration and coordination of the volunteer teams and consultants on the project. And James sort of states the value of what this project contributed to him, and this was taken at the exhibition. And he said, "In terms of my architectural studies, the Olkola project has changed it completely. It's helped me consider how I think about those who are actually using the environments we are dealing with and gaining a better understanding of the people involved. It's honestly as simple as that, understanding that communication more so and developing the relationships with people involved." So the contribution and enabling factors for traditional owner-led integrated subjects can be sort of summarised as a result of this subject, and they are an established and ongoing relationship between the university and a community, the will of the faculty head of departments involved, flexibility to make contingencies such as delays caused in feedback loops, responsive assessments to traditional owner identified needs, the project stage and relevant disciplines, and adaptive engagement processes in line with the changing demands of a project. And in the remaining time that I have now, I want to talk about where the project is at. In 2020, we've got our DA approval, thanks to large part to that town planning work that the students did last year. And we've applied for major funding and have been successful in a major grant to start building. The relationships have expanded considerably, and I've now moved to the University of Melbourne, and so we're bringing in lots of different faculties from that part. A number of the students remain involved, and you can see here that it's a combination of engineering students, architecture students, and construction managers. And all of these students, except for the construction manager, were all a part of that subject or preceding subjects as part of this project and are now graduates. And typically now our Tuesday mornings look like this. At 7:30 in the morning, we meet up on Zoom and we go through aspects of the design to continue to resolve it to the point where it will get built, because obviously student work can go so far, but the real essence and the really important part of this project is that it comes back to the traditional owners, and that is why these students who are now graduates have seen the value of this project and continue to be a part of it. And this way of working that is community embedded and traditional owner led helps to contribute to an active citizenry that helps to inform a more sensitive professional workforce for the future. Thank you.